Tiger Driver Army, how are you guys doing out there? This is Juicy J, and with me, as always, I have co-host JP, aka Nobody Likes Him, aka he needs to get a new podcast to be on. What's up, JP?
AKA, I'm the only reason you got viewers. What's up, man?
How are you doing, man?
Maintaining sanity. Just enjoying quality time with your mom. She's lovely. She's been cooking for me a lot. Just trying to maintain sanity, man. It's a crazy world out there. People, be sure to wash your hands and don't go outside unless you have to.
Right. And also with us is the other co-host, Blue, aka my best friend, aka everybody's best friend. What's up, Blue?
I'm everybody's best friend. What's up? How's it going?
Pretty good, man. Yeah, just trying to stay alive, trying to survive.
Yeah. Trying to stay inside alive, yeah. Same here. I've bought a lot of video games ever since the fall started.
You're buying a lot of video games? How are you even doing that? Because I saw that on GameStop, you have to maybe ask for them online, and then you have to maybe go in front of the store and pick them up front or something.
Yeah, so it's weird with GameStop because you order them online, and then you call the store's phone number, and of course it's super busy because there's everybody's doing it. And they're like, hey, I'm outside, I'm so-and-so, I came here to pick up a copy of whatever. Yeah. And they're like, okay, I'll meet you at the door. It seems like very drug dealish. Like, you got this stuff. And they crack open the door and they hand you the game, and it's super shady. So yeah, that's basically how you do it.
Yeah, that's a little weird. Yeah, maybe a lot of other people are just downloading online, is the other option. But I always prefer the actual physical game instead of online, because online it seems like I'm really not making a purchase. I don't know, it's just me. But I actually want the physical game to say, oh, you know what, I have it here.
Yeah, I feel it's like a weird thing. Like, you'd rather have the physical copy. Just to say, I don't know, it's like a book or something, and you put it on a shelf.
You know what game I was trying to download earlier today, but I guess I couldn't because I don't have these specs in my computer. But I was trying to download Fire Pro Wrestling. I was trying to download it so maybe I could play online and put it on up.
Oh, yeah.
So I was trying to get it, but
yeah, that's the New Japan one, right? They have New Japan wrestlers on it.
Yeah, it looks pretty fun.
It looks fun. I enjoyed it.
I wanted to make a JP character so I can beat him up. Right, JP?
Because you can't do it in real life.
I was gonna make and we're gonna talk about this later because we have a list for you guys of the weirdest matches. But before we get to that, I was looking and searching for these matches, the ones I wanted to talk about, and I saw some for TNA. And speaking of weird wrestlers, I saw Curryman. Do you guys remember Curryman?
Yeah, I love Curryman.
Yeah, so I thought that was a funny one.
That was Christopher Daniels in the Curryman.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good one.
Weird, yeah.
Or Ahmed
Curry on his head
or Ahmed Johnson.
Ahmed Johnson. I paid to see that match. Curryman versus Ahmed Johnson.
5 stars, bro.
But yeah, we're gonna talk about those weirdest matches later on. But what did you guys see on wrestling news-wise this week or last week that we were out? Anything newsworthy that you guys saw?
Well, we were out for about 2 weeks, so it's been, I want to see how, there's a lot of WrestleMania news. I mean, everybody saw and we're going to talk about that a little bit today too, right?
Let's talk about that now. On there. Let's talk about that WrestleMania.
I mean, that was the biggest news over the weekend.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about, I guess let's do night one first, and really the main match to talk about there is the Boneyard match with my boy AJ and Taker.
I bet you like that one since it's your boy AJ.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, I'm telling you, anything that makes AJ look good. I don't know why I'm invested so much in this man's career, but if it makes him look good, I'm great. I was like, oh no, it's just because I don't know if you guys remember WrestleMania 34 when John Cena was like, oh, I want to wrestle Taker, and on paper that's a really good match, but it's like when Taker's old and can't wrestle that much anymore, so he beat him in 3 minutes or 2.5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So I just make Cena look like a chump, even though, I mean, Cena is always going to be, John Cena is always going to be big, but this is the perfect style match to use Taker in. He's older, and maybe they should take this as advice for the other older wrestlers if they want to keep using him. It's more cinematic, but at least they can fight for more than 3 minutes, you know?
Yeah, a lot of people are saying it's like reminded them of Lucha Underground.
Yeah, very cinematic. I mean, they're not. The thing with Lucha Underground I thought it was a cool concept. This exclusive to like wrestlers could die in Lucha Underground. Like if this was Lucha Underground, AJ Styles would have been dead. Unless they come back with a new gimmick, which I mean, to me, I think that's cool. It kind of a curveball in somebody's career.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't watch Raw. I don't know if AJ came back or if he's just been gone this whole time.
Oh yeah, I missed it. I'm not sure if he came back.
Yeah. What did you think about it, Joe?
I thought, given the circumstances, especially for night one, flat out, the Undertaker match with AJ Styles was the only redeeming part of night one of WrestleMania, because the rest of it, in my opinion, wasn't good. It wasn't good at all. And the beautiful part about this is that they took advantage of a bad situation, no fans, an empty arena, and decided to do something cinematic, which I think that, you know, like I said, at the end of the day, WWE has always been behind the power curve of what other people have done. Lucha Underground has done this before and done it well. Matt Hardy was famous for making these kind of extended wrestling matches and segments and cinematic form popular. And they finally used it, and they did it well. They did it so well. It hid Undertaker's weaknesses as a wrestler and then just highlighted him as a character. And where AJ Styles could still have a 5-star match if he wanted, but it kind of highlighted him as a heel character. And I love the fact that they took a negative and flipped it into a positive, and it was a lot more interesting. To a casual WWE fan, it's something groundbreaking, where for people like us, we've seen this before and appreciated it in other promotions. But I thought it was done super well, but by far it was the only thing that I enjoyed on night one, honestly.
Yeah, one thing, like wrestling purists, and you know, I listen to a lot of them, so it's like they're going to tear it apart. But like I said, like you said, it's like it's with Undertaker's weakness because of age, and you know, he's a fucking badass guy. Like he's probably going a real fight, but like putting him in a match that, you know, you want to put him in a 15-minute match, that's a lot for a guy his age. And that big, you know, when he wrestled with Goldberg at Saudi Arabia, they almost killed each other because they couldn't go for that long. Luckily, they were both okay, but that match was a complete shit show. And then when you put him in this Bone Road match, it's kind of hiding that disadvantage he would have in a wrestling match. And I think that's the only way you can do a match with the Undertaker anymore. It still makes him look like a badass. I mean, he doesn't have to bury someone every match, but you can have it in a more cinematic approach. It sucks for the live audience, but, you know, I think people are always going to go back and watch it. And I think that's more important at that point, like the TV audience.
Yeah. And what do you guys think is if it was better with the Dead Man gimmick or this American Badass kind of gimmick, like the motorcycle? Think it would have made it worse if they did Dead Man? Or
well, I think in a lot of ways during this segment, they kind of did both.
You know, he teleported and stuff, so you kind of still had that supernaturally. I think because the build-up to the feud was he was kind of calling out the Mark Calloway, not the Undertaker. It kind of went back to his old American Badass gimmick, because I felt like Taker himself has said that like he connected more with that gimmick because that's kind of how he is in real life. Like as a person, he's just like this big, backer-looking dude. So it kind of mixed them both, because after he got tossed into the hole, then he comes back as like this supernatural, like nothing could stop him. I think that's when he went to kind of pseudo Taker mode and just started stomping everybody out. But I like the match overall. I think AJ got some offense in, even though he had to cheat. I think with AJ's size and Taker's size, like if these guys have wrestled in the ring, AJ can't do a Styles Clash on him. He can't do half the moves he can't do a lot of his finishers on him and make him look legitimate. That's a huge problem. So when you put him in this kind of street fight kind of context and he's hitting him with shovels and he has 3 guys ganging up on him, then that makes more sense. The match makes sense logically, you know?
Yeah, it does make more sense.
Because real life, I'm pretty sure a guy Styles' size would get his ass handed to him by Taker's size, you know? So it hides those weaknesses and makes it a little bit more believable, even though it's more cinematic and sometimes a little bit silly. But But yeah, no, it was a great match. I don't know if you guys saw on Twitter, Mick Foley was like, he like pleaded Mr. McMahon to put him in the next Boneyard match. I think that would be awesome for like another WrestleMania or something.
Yeah, there's a few wrestlers that put that on there on social media, like, hey, I want a Boneyard match.
That's awesome, man. I just like keep innovating the business. I like it. I know a lot of people, have they're not too fond of it. And that's fine. I mean, that's one match out of the year. It's not like they're going to change the entire business to be like this. And I think it's a one fun thing to do every now and again,
Mm-hmm. Any other matches that standing out for you guys? Maybe the Braun Strowman versus Goldberg, or the no DQ match versus...
I mean, they already said that Braun Strowman versus Goldberg match is potentially one of the worst matches in WrestleMania history. I agree. But it's exactly what I think anybody would expect. Just a couple of finishers stringed together, and it made somebody look very strong, and that was that. And like I said, I don't think in any way, shape, or form you're going to ever see Goldberg wrestle more than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty much the synopsis of that match was spear, powerbomb, power slam, and that's pretty much that match. And yeah, I can't say I was disappointed because I already expected it. I kind of expected that, so it's just like, I was disappointed I was right. How about that? And of course, sorry?
No, I was just laughing at what you said.
Yeah. And then for night 2, what did you guys think of the matches in night 2? Anything stand out?
Well, before you do the night 2, I just wanted to say real quick, I did really like the John Morrison versus Uso and Kofi Kingston match for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah, that was a fun match.
Yeah, but on night 2, of course, the one I thought was maybe a little too long was the Edge versus Randy Orton.
Oh yeah. Did you see that match got a lot of flack for that spot where they hung him on the weight machine?
Really?
It was yeah, because the Chris Benoit documentary came out, right, when Vice, and then like 2 weeks later, a week later, WrestleMania happens, and he does Randy Orton he doesn't like hang him by his neck, he hangs him by like his arm and neck on the weight machine, and people are like, oh man, how could you do that? That's so insensitive. And I'm like, oh, I didn't think about it that way, but yeah, it was like 45 minutes. It was some crazy long match. It took forever.
Yeah, for what it was, it didn't need to be that long.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It was they battled all over the performance center. I did like the spot where like they were like in a conference room, and it had like a chain link fence on the roof. And Edge just like monkey climbs up there, like drops an elbow on the table. That was a pretty cool spot. It wasn't even that high, but it looks pretty. Like the angle, I guess, made it look like really impactful. Like he just hit his elbow on the table. Ouch. The Kevin Owens match versus Seth Rollins, was that night 2?
1.
That was night 1.
That was a good match too.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? And of course, you had the Firefly Funhouse match, which I had trouble even calling that a match because it was fun. It was a fun like little segment, and then it somehow just ended in a pin, and I'm like, well, what? I was waiting for it to start, and I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know what you guys thought about that.
I thought it was awesome.
I thought for night 2, the Firefly Funhouse was the reason why I loved it was the fact that for the first time in about 10-15 years when it came to WWE, you gave me a segment or a match or whatever you want to call it that was outside of the box and different. It wasn't so cookie cutter. It was unique. And when's the last time, outside of perhaps maybe Daniel Bryan's win, I take that back. The last time I felt any sort of emotion about watching WWE or something was, I was emotionally invested or taken by surprise was at WrestleMania 30 when Daniel Bryan finally won the title after beating the Authority. And the same night, when Brock Lesnar pinned The Undertaker and broke the streak. Because those were things that people were emotionally invested in, and they didn't expect for that to happen. So when it happened, it actually got like a genuine response. And I'm not saying this gave me that genuine response, but this response was like, wow, what the hell am I watching? And this is also cool at the same time. And when's the last time anything WWE did that actually made you react?
Yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully it's it should be the same director that was directing the Firefly Fun. I can't even say that. Somebody say it for me.
Firefly Funhouse.
Yeah, I don't know why I have a hard time saying it. But the same director, it probably the same one that did this, and it was awesome. That guy, they should give that guy more things to do.
Yeah, it was nuts. I love the part where he was Kurt Angle and John Cena was old school Cena, and they brought back the old trunks, the old what's called the dual color, the orange and blue trunks he was in. But he was aggression. It's just so wild. I was like, what's going on? It was a nice throwback to everything after that.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of honest at the end with John Cena just disappearing, and you're like, okay, so and I know WWE would never do this, but what would have been cool after that match, like on a Raw or SmackDown, it's like they just don't acknowledge Cena at all. Like they pretend he doesn't exist. That would have been crazy. Mm-hmm. And then he just comes back like in SummerSlam or something, and that'd be wild. But just do that for a couple of months. But that's just me just thinking in my head, like I would have done it like this, like just pretend he did erase him and from history, and they're just like, John who? But that's just me being a wild, crazy booking. A very, very interesting match. And I mean, I don't know how long that went for. It was like at least like 10, 15 minutes, right, of just random time traveling. I don't even know what to call it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I understand what was... Huh?
It was like Freddy Krueger stuff. Like he was in his...
Yeah, I understand what was going on. It was just kind of like Bray Wyatt messing with his head, which is like... Yeah. Is this how the rest of his matches are going to go? Like, right? Does this set the standard, or is this going to be like a very unique thing that happens, every blue moon?
Yeah.
I don't think it necessarily has to be the standard, but especially after that match that he had with Goldberg where he lost, which I thought that was a terrible idea. It was a nice way to recover that character, especially when he finally... The thing that I also loved, that the small detail that I loved about... I mean, there's a lot of details I loved about the match, but the one detail that was like, that they played off of was Bray Wyatt kept bringing up the fact that 6 years ago, Cena beat him when he shouldn't have.
Yeah, and that basically derailed his whole character, his whole, Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah, and like they were playing off the fact that like a lot of people felt that kind of did him a disservice, and they played off of it beautifully. And this was kind of like his redemption, and they played it into a dark story over. At the end of the day, even though Cena is successful, at what cost is Cena successful? I mean, at the end of the day, you lost your life. You're in Hollywood, and you're still not anywhere close to being as successful as you want to be. You failed to come into the WWE on your terms. And basically he was pointing out things that I think a lot of people don't necessarily look at because John Cena is a success story. And it was such a unique way to kind of counteract, John Cena being like the super Cena that he used to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I really love that aspect of storytelling. Because at the end of the day, WWE is not good at telling stories. This was actually a story. So I was, for me not watching WWE at all, I was very invested in what I saw. I was like, wow, this is great. So I give so much props to what they did. And a lot of people say like it was stupid, it was dumb. I don't think necessarily wrestling has to always be a matter of 5 stars and who can do all these amazing technical wrestling moves. I think if there's emotion or a reaction, they've done a good job. And like I said, when has WWE done a good job in the past couple of years of exerting a reaction that wasn't, negative in the sense of like, well, here we go, WWE did it bad yet again. It was more so like, wow, that was cool or that was interesting. It was divisive and it was divisive in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it was interesting how they put over Drew McIntyre? Yeah.
I think it's about it. Yeah. With Lesnar. He took a beating. I think he took like 3, 4 F5s. I mean, I hate the whole, they start off with quadruple finishers. It's like you put that option in the WWE games and you have your finisher right off the beginning. That's what these matches become. I know Drew McIntyre can probably have like a real drawn out match, but I mean, I'm just glad, Brock's out of the title picture. It's just like it's a matter of time, and I think they did a good job highlighting, like, he was the chosen one, and then similar to Bray Wyatt, his career kind of got derailed, and now this was his opportunity to get back. And it's good to see a Royal Rumble winner actually win at Mania for a change. They keep losing. I enjoyed that match. I just enjoyed the result. The match was kind of, did it deserve the main event spot? I don't know. I don't think it was the most intriguing match, but I guess since it's for the title, that's just where it ended up.
Yeah, because it would have been hard to end it with a Firefly Funhouse match. I think maybe this was probably the only way to go to end the WrestleMania. So, I mean, it was all right.
Yeah. All things considered, with the Corona and all these delays and stuff, I think they did a good job. I think they did the best they could with Mania. And it should have happened. Probably not. They probably should have delayed it and just had it some other time. But the logistics of that are probably way more complicated than any of us could understand, and maybe that's why they did it. I don't know. The only people that know are those in charge of WWE, right? So,
and what do you guys think?
I think most.
No, go for it. What were you gonna say? Finish your.
I think most people were satisfied with the event overall.
Yeah.
I think it was definitely highlighted by those Bray Wyatt's match and the Boneyard match.
Yeah. Yeah, because what I was going to ask you guys, speaking of the virus, what do you guys think of them not really... Because I think AEW, what adds to their shows recently with the virus is that they had wrestlers along the ring. And I know in WWE, they don't have... they have a few people, but not as much as AEW. Do you think maybe it could have added to the WrestleMania if they had more people around the ring? Maybe just to be screaming or yelling dumb things?
Yeah, perhaps. Because at the end of the day... other than, like I said, every once in a while you'll have like an empty arena match, like where Mankind and The Rock had it, or Terry Funk against Ric Flair many, many years ago. Yeah. Sometimes an empty arena match is a nice novelty, but right now that is the norm. But I'm not a fan of no fans in the audience. But at least AEW has other wrestlers on the side that also interact with the wrestlers as well to kind of add to the ambiance of, here are the heels on this side and here are the baby faces on this side. I think it probably would have added a little bit more ambiance to the show, but at the same time, if I'm being pragmatic and realistic, I don't think they should have had these shows at all. But they did, and if they're going to continue doing it, I like what AEW does to kind of provide a limited audience to some of the roster being out there on the sides of the ring watching instead.
And if you go back to that Edge Randy Orton match, like, the announcers were terrible in that match. They were not showing any, like, they were doing stuff on top of trucks, on top of trailers and in the gyms, and the announcers were just whispering. That also takes so much away from it. The announcers are so important to what's going on. I think that's something that kind of, and they had time to re-edit it. I don't know why they just didn't book or redo the audio for it. But yeah, no, I agree with you guys. I think they should just get all these wrestlers you're paying to just sit at home or that are there in Florida, and just even the NXT guys. They should have the NXT guys in the crowd, and it's like a live seminar for them, right? And you can tell them how you're going to react to the match, what you're going to do, and you never know what that might lead to. It might lead to some pretty legit feuds in the future. Sometimes just doing these unexpected things. I love that about AEW. It makes it much more fun to watch than some of these other shows, where you have the crowd, and they're in on it too. But it's something. You can hear all the shit talking. That's something that I think they need to adapt to. And they might be adapting to it late, but rather to admit you were wrong on that, and then just bring some wrestlers in the crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, see what happens. I think maybe they're just being more careful with the virus, and they don't want a lot of people just being right next to each other, because AEW does put wrestlers right next to each other. I seen other, not just wrestling, but other shows, they put people, at least those 6 feet away and not really close. So maybe they just need be a little bit careful with that. But
I don't know what. I don't know what precautions they take before every recording. Yeah. Like, do they get people checked? Yeah, because if I was working there and I didn't know you were a wrestler there and only won, I don't know if I want to sit next to these people. No offense, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're not even sitting next to each other, but I'm just trying to reduce reduce the spread.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But like I said, I think the two takeaways that I took from this whole event was it shouldn't take a pandemic for them to make good television. Number one, and it's nice to see that they did something different. And then two, I think had there been an audience for WrestleMania, had there actually been an audience, I think half of these matches would have done so well, even better than what they did.
I agree with that. For the Otis match, I know you guys probably don't care too much about the whole Mandy Rose thing.
No, yeah, I was about to say that. No, I think I agree with you. I was about to say Otis.
Yeah, the live, had there been a live crowd or even wrestlers for that, the pop would have been great. Just when he finally gets the girl, after just being kind of the whole drama with Dolph and Sonya. I think that match was kind of a sleeper because nobody really expected much of that. He's going to lose or he's going to get betrayed. No, it was a pretty sweet match, and I think had there been a crowd there, had there been some semblance of noise, it would have hit that much more.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, interesting stuff. And you know what, guys? I don't know. We talked about WWE for 30 minutes. This is surprising for us, right?
Yeah, I think this is by far the longest amount of time we've ever even discussed sports entertainment in quotation.
I mean, it was his biggest show of the year, and honestly, other than AEW, it's the main thing going on right now, and even in wrestling news, it's kind of flooded with that, right?
Yeah, it is.
And unfortunately, a lot of these indie guys can't do much. I know MLW is still out there. I think they recorded a bunch of shows ahead, and they're still releasing shows. What else? I don't know if Lucha Libre is going on right now. I don't watch too much of it. It's just kind of when Triple Mania comes around, that's when I watch it. But similarly with WWE, I just kind of keep up with it.
Yeah, what's going on?
I'll tell you one thing. One thing that I've definitely enjoyed, while for the most part wrestling is kind of dwindled down, or the options have dwindled down, is the past 2 weeks of Dark Side of the Ring on Vice. This week, of course, showcasing the Brawl for All, which is something I was always curious about ever since I was a kid. Like, how did that work? How did they put this together? And then prior to that, they had the story about New Jack's controversial career. But oh man, I tell you, if people out there have not checked out this series, they must. And man, to kind of work backwards here, watching the Brawl for All episode made me realize that as great as WWE has been in the past, and believe me, they are innovators. We wouldn't look at wrestling the same without what WWE/WWF has done for the past 60 years. But man, the Brawl for All was such a terrible idea. Even back then when I was a kid and I watched it on TV, my God, I thought to myself, okay, even I knew wrestling was predetermined, but even I could grasp at such a young age back then that this is not a good idea, because what if people actually permanently damage themselves and then they really can't continue their career? And in a lot of cases, it did happen. I mean, it cut down Dr. Death Steve Williams' career even shorter. It definitely took the Godfather out, and it was just really interesting to see the politics and the controversy backstage with who was involved and why they thought this was a good idea at first.
One thing I took away from it was the minds at WWE corporate at that time. They highlighted at the beginning was Jim Ross, Jim Cornette, Bruce Pritchard, who's his name, Pat Patterson, and then it was Vince Russo was the new guy, right? And then Vince, you get 3-4 of those guys. They had been in the industry for probably 10 plus years at that point, but even more now. The minds behind the product at that point, each on their own, Jim Ross, Bruce Pritchard, Cornette, all of them have years of experience, but at the end of the day, it's what Vince says yes to. So, Vince McMahon, because it's confusing because it's Russo. So Russo kind of went around all that, being the younger guy with new ideas. And he's like, it's funny because he's like, it's basically his mindset for the whole thing was like, I want to say JBL get his ass fucking kicked. And it's the stupidest thing. And yeah, it's like it ruins careers, like, and it shortened careers as well. Just over a stupid kind of side bet. It's not even a side bet, but I don't know what to call it. I think at the end of the Vice documentary, Russo even admits, like, looking back at it, yeah, it was a dumb decision. And what we know about head trauma now that we didn't know back then, I wouldn't make the same thing. And I don't know to believe him or not, but I mean, he kind of, you can tell he was kind of guilty about that. What happened to Dr. Death and everything. That was a very good episode.
Yeah,
absolutely. And the thing is, I think this was kind of the straw that, at the end of the day, they never liked each other anyway, but I think this is one of the straws that broke the camel's back between any sort of possibility of Jim Cornette and Vince Russo ever becoming at least cordial. Because after this, I was aware of, and I was only aware of this because back then the internet was in its infancy, is that Vince Russo put a restraining order on Jim Cornette because Jim Cornette threatened to kill him for being such a virus to professional wrestling. And for now, we're going on over 25 years at this point, I think 22, 25 years of these two men absolutely hating each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was interesting to see that segment where you see kind of both. I'm glad they got both guys to talk in the same documentary. People would love to see these two in a conversation, but Cornette has always had a way with like words where he sounds like he needs it. He's like, I want it, and he even threatened his family, which is fucked up. Like, I admit that's fucked up. You don't threaten a man's family, right? As a wrestling, like, I get where Vince is coming from. Vince Russo, he's like, this is, it's a wrestling show, man. Yeah, I made a mistake. I fucked up. Over a stupid, I want to see JBL's ass kicked. But at the end of the day, it's a job. I fucked up. We kept on moving and went on. And Cornette has never been able to kind of forgive him for that or other things he did to the wrestling, because he sees it as, this is something I think Cornette has done since he was like 15 years old. He's like a cameraman, and then he just moved. So to him, I feel like it's more than a business. It's a livelihood. And I think that's why he's kind of, like, in the years, he's kind of retired and kind of backed away from it, even though he keeps shitting on people that do this kind of stuff. Again, that's what he chooses to do. He makes money off of it. But it's interesting to see both perspectives, where it's like, you've got this guy over here that it was a business term. It was a business decision. He even admitted, as a viewer, as a casual viewer, he was entertained by it. He might have just been bullshitting there. But Vince Russo was like, as a casual viewer, I'm enjoying these matches. And Cornette, which is like die hard, done this since he was a teenager kind of guy. It's those two clashing perspectives were so interesting.
No, absolutely. And the thing that really bums me out is that seeing that, according to Bart Gunn, this was supposed to be his big push. I mean, granted, everyone knew that it was kind of centered around two things. One, Vince Russo wanted to find a way to have JBL get his ass kicked. That happened. And then secondly, it was supposed to be a way to push Dr. Death, Steve Williams, which that did not happen because Bart Gunn knocked him out. And little did anyone know that Bart Gunn could legitimately throw down. He was just a strong guy. And they fed him the butterbean to punish him. And because of this whole thing, it kind of ruined his WWE career. Granted, he ended up going over to Japan in the late 90s, early 2000s and had an awesome career for All Japan Pro Wrestling. But I just think that's super fucked up and unfortunate that because he was doing his job, he got punished for it because they didn't like the way that it turned out. Where, I mean, that's the whole point of shoot fighting. You don't know who's going to win. It's not predetermined. And Vince wanted to find a way to kind of punish him for that. And you could tell that Bart Gunn, even though he's accepted it, he's moved on, he did have a good career in Japan, that unfortunately you could tell that even he knew because of this whole thing that derailed his career in America.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what I found found interesting was the part where he gets announced that he's going to fight against Dr. Death, and he's like, "You guys want me? You know, you guys want me to throw the match? Like, you want me to be on out? Like, is he going to be a work or shoot?" They're like, "Oh yeah, you can't knock him out." Like, basically, Pritchard and everybody was like, "Yeah, you're not going to. Are you crazy? You're the guy that's going to knock out Dr. Death." And I mean, that pisses me off as a man, as a fighter, like Bart Gunn was. It's like, all right, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, regardless of the fact that you work for a company, you still are not, I mean, yeah, okay, you are a man, but you are also a person who deserves respect and pride. And when people automatically want to pigeonhole you as like, "Oh, no, you're not going to do this, man. It's okay. You'll be fine. Dr. Death's going to take care of it." It'd be like, wow, you're just going to flat out disrespect me and expect me to have a smile on my face and take that? No, fuck that. Like, I'm gonna try to knock this guy out. And he totally did. Like, I don't know I went back and watched the match. He fucked up Dr. Death Steve Williams. It wasn't just a lucky punch. He fucked him up.
Yeah, that was crazy. Like, when you think of what could have been if they had told him, you know what, don't let him knock you out, but let him get more punches in, let it be a decision, right? It might not be as entertaining, but you get the right guy over. But had they just played it as a work, seeing Dr. Death versus Stone Cold, I mean, that would have been some crazy shit, especially after he had won this quote-unquote legit shoot thing. But they decided to keep it a shoot, and, you saw what happened. Real people got hurt, nobody got over, and that's what happens when you do kind of things wrong, the way they did them. But,
absolutely. And that's the thing, too, like, it shortened the career of Dr. Death and also ruined his WWE push and ruined Bart Gunn, and it unnecessarily endangered people's lives because wrestling is already dangerous enough, and then you expect them to continue to perform to that level, especially have to do something where you're willingly telling these guys to just bash each other's brains in for something that they're not going to get, and that's money or a push.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then there was also the conversation about New Jack.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Oh man.
And it doesn't get when it comes to anybody's career in professional wrestling, I don't think outside of maybe a couple of other people, it gets any more controversial and murky than when you discuss the career of New Jack, because especially like for me, I grew up on the East Coast for a big chunk of my life, and I remember watching New Jack on ECW television back in like 96, 97, 98. And yeah, back then as a kid, you're like, wow, this guy's badass. He just comes out to Natural Born Killers by Dr. Dre and Ice Cube and just beats everybody up. But then you realize what went on behind that is that the guy was high on drugs. Mm-hmm. And if you at all slightly disrespected him or he felt you were disrespectful, he would take it out on you. And there is a tiny part of me that understands the notion of like, okay, respect is a big thing, but he nearly killed everybody that disrespected him. Like, yeah, flat out.
Yeah, another thing it covers was kind of his past with his dad, stabbing his mom. That was one thing they talked about in the show, and I think his dad had died when he was younger. Just his fucked up childhood too. Like this guy didn't come from like a peaceful childhood. He didn't have a regular upbringing. He had a pretty fucked up. His parents had their problems. He had his problems growing up. That coupled with drugs. I have my qualms about beating someone up when they're handing you their neck basically in a match. That's pretty, like I said, I always say that's kind of, nothing on New Jack. I don't want him to kill me. But it's like, that's a little bit cowardly. Right? It's like, hey, I'm handing you my neck. Here you go. And then he just legitimately kicks your ass. There's a problem with that I'll always have, because it's like, well, if you have a problem with someone, you want to settle it, physically like that, make sure it's in a legit fight. Don't pretend that you're going to hurt me and then actually hurt me. It's something I always have a problem with that.
Yeah, I'm not saying that that's correct what he did. No, I think it's wrong, no matter which way you slice it. But the thing that I think people got to remember is that a year prior to that incident that happened at XPW, I believe that was in 2000. In 1999, Vic Grimes and New Jack did have a match where they were supposed to do a bump off the second floor of an arena, and they were supposed to dive together, through a table. And right there, live on TV, on pay-per-view, New Jack was like, "All right, man, we're gonna do this. On the count of 3, I'm gonna pull you with me, and we're gonna jump together." And Vic Grimes like, "No, I can't do it." He's like, "Man, we're already up here. Like, we are here. We are doing this. 1, 2, 3." And then when he counted to 3, Vic Grimes pulled back while New Jack tried to pull him with him. And because of that whole awkward fall, Vic Grimes fell on top of New Jack, cracking his skull and, of course, permanently damaging one of his eyes, where he's still permanently blind. Because of the fact that Vic Grimes agreed to it all the way up until like the 12th hour, that harmed New Jack. And I don't think New Jack should have continued that bump. There could have been another way to circumnavigate that, but at the same time, he did put New Jack's life in danger. And now me, I would have been pissed off too, and I probably would have fucked you up once I got better. And then the other part about it is that Vic Grimes never once checked on him throughout the entire year after the incident happened, where New Jack took time off to heal and kind of recover and then came back. Not once did he go out to check on him, do anything, and New Jack felt that was disrespectful. So he's like, all right, well, I'm going to do the same. I'm not saying that's right what he did. I would never even do that. Me personally, had happened to me, once I'm better, I'd come find you and I'd fuck you up in outside of the ring. I wouldn't do that while we're working. I would just fuck you up. But there is a tiny part of me that doesn't blame him. Tiny.
I tell you. Yeah, it's
still not the right way. I wouldn't have done it that way, but I don't blame him a little bit.
Yeah, that one was so interesting. Like just all the stuff he did when he was like, I wanted to kill him. I was aiming for the floor. Like he admits to it. He's like, I was gonna toss his fucking ass on the floor. I was like, damn, like New Jack does not give a shit. I guess I don't know if it can incriminate him at this point. It's too late. Right? That happened years ago, but. Like he admits to it in the thing. Like, I wanted to kill him. I was aiming for the floor. I wasn't aiming for the ropes or whatever. Oh man, it was just And then they go over the mass transit incident, and several other incidents.
Very sad.
Yeah, that was crazy. With he just got booked. Like poor Mass just got booked with the wrong guy. And I think that was like a rebooking they had to do last minute, right?
Yeah, exactly, because Axel Rotten couldn't make it for whatever reason. So it was Mass Transit and then Devon Dudley against those two, and the guy was just like saying, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that, basically dictating the match as a rookie. And New Jack is like, oh, okay, you want to bleed? Okay, I'll make you bleed. And then cut him terribly, like absolutely cut him terribly. On the flip side, Mass Transit put himself in that situation because he lied. He lied that he was a 21-year-old wrestler. It's unfortunate that it went to that extreme. New Jack is not at all innocent, but Mass Transit did lie.
Yeah, and I think that's eventually what got him off of that beat, where it's like, well, you lie, you put yourself in that situation with a dangerous worker.
And then the part that really baffles me was, and I think this is the one thing that happened in 2009 when New Jack stabbed that other wrestler 9 times, and the other wrestler dropped the charges if he said, okay, if you agree to work with me throughout Florida and we'll work the angle where I'm trying to get revenge on you, then I'll drop the charges and we can make money. And New Jack agreed to it. Only once he got bailed out, he packed up his vehicle and left Florida to never ever work the angle. He's like, I'm not doing it. And that was probably the smartest thing New Jack ever did, is take the charges being dropped and just flee town before the other guy could try to come back on that promise.
I think he took that from personal experience with Vic Grimes, because it's like, this happened with me and Vic Grimes. We worked again, and I tried to kill him. So if I agree to work again with this guy, I don't know what he's going to try to do with me in the ring. Fuck that. that's all I might just kill myself again. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, like, I might try to kill him. I'm not going to put myself in that situation. Oh, then he knew better. He knew better just with his past. So he's had a crazy. Does he still wrestle? I don't think so. Right? He's gonna retired.
No, I think he retired.
And that's a crazy career. That was a very interesting episode with New Jack.
Definitely stuff.
Absolutely. And the thing is, like, I've had several opportunities throughout my life to meet him.
Yeah.
I have personally always been hesitant to go up and meet him.
Why you scared?
I've always been because I said the dude is a very intense individual, super intense.
Yeah,
I remember when they were hosting Pro Wrestling Syndicate shows back in New Jersey. Before they folded as a company, I remember there was a card where the main event was supposed to be AJ Styles versus RVD, and the undercard was Brian Myers, aka Kurt Hawkins, against another wrestler who was famous in New Jersey, and I don't remember that guy's name at the moment. I apologize. It was supposed to be like a kendo stick on a pole match, and I think New Jack was supposed to officiate. They ended up not using him to officiate it, but he was still there to sign autographs, and I just could not bring myself to go and meet him. I was just like, nah, hell no, man. If motherfucker doesn't like the way I look at him, man, he might try to like punch me in the throat just because he doesn't like the way I look at him. I'm good.
It's interesting. Sorry, go ahead, Jerry.
No, go ahead.
It's interesting because he's got that old school kind of heat. When you see this man, like you don't know if he's lurking or he's being himself. He's got that old school kind of heat where you will not approach this guy if you care about your well-being. And that's something that it's kind of hard to find nowadays. But I think this was just a case where it was a mix of maybe him actually just being himself, taking out that anger in the ring where it's like, yeah, you looked at him, man, he probably would try to kick your ass. It's very old school type of heat. Yeah, you kind of you stay away from this guy. You see him.
Yeah, but speaking of all these weird matches, do you guys want to go to the next segment?
Absolutely.
Let's do it. Well, let's go ahead and JP, can you explain the rules for us again, please?
Alrighty. Basically, in kind of lieu of this past WrestleMania, we saw a lot of strange matches or strange ways to present matches, and then it got me thinking. I've been a wrestling fan since I was about 4 years old, and I'm not saying that I've seen everything, but I've seen a lot. And then I started to think, what are some of the weirdest matches I have ever seen in my life? And then I thought, well, what a better way to talk about it, because everyone talked about how strange it was to see the Firefly Funhouse match, and everyone talked about how strange it was to see Undertaker presented in this format, which I'm still, by the way, a fan of how they did it. But I thought, what a better way to kind of celebrate strangeness in wrestling by counting down the weirdest matches you have ever seen.
Yep. Let's do this. Who wants to start first?
I can go first.
Okay.
All right, cool.
Okay, so my first match, and sorry, I had to look up the names of these guys real quick, but this was a old school WCW pay-per-view match. It was John Tenta, or he was also known as Earthquake, I think, in WWF, versus Big Bubba, which is Big Boss Man in WWF with Jimmy Hart. It's a Carson City Silver Dollar match. And what this was basically was an item on a pole match, but the pole was almost twice as long. It was twice the height of these, and Big Bubba is a pretty big guy. It was twice the height of these guys. So the objective of the match was then to kind of scoot up there and get the silver dollars and take him down and punch the other guy in the face, right? But it's like you've got these two probably 300-pounders, and you have this pole that's twice the length of these guys. And you're like, how the hell are they going to get this stupid old school WCW? Apparently, Jimmy Hart was the one that kind of scooched his way up there. And even then, he's probably risking that thing just breaking apart. Because I'm sure he's a small guy. I'm sure he's kind of heavy. I wouldn't trust myself on this pole. And he pulls the silver dollars down, gives it to, I think, John Tenta, and he punches Big Bubba with him to win the match. But it was a stupid, crazy match. Like, the whole time they're like, how is any of these 300-pound guys going to climb, like, scooch up this pole to take that out? This must have been like a, I don't know, 10, 15-foot pole. Like, I'm not shitting you. It's a long ass pole. It's just a really stupid old school match that I watched this morning. I was like, oh, that'd be great for a segment.
That's a good one.
Who wants to go next?
All right, Joe, you can go.
All right. You guys are gonna throw a major red flag on this, but hear me out. Let me explain how I chose this one or why. So on this one, what I chose was AEW Double or Nothing Casino Royale match. And the reason I chose this one, the reason I think it was strange for me, is because the way of the quality of wrestling and the content and everything was awesome. But as far as the structure of it, I think it was weird. Because the first thing I thought of when they explained these rules for these match, I was like, I don't know what is going on. I don't know how anybody's going to come out here. I mean, they did give you the rules, but I mean, it was so long, the explanation of it. And, you know, during this Casino Royale match, just people started, a bunch of people came out into the ring at the same time. And you kind of, after a while, lost track of what was going on. And again, but still the wrestling was good. Everything was entertaining. You had MJF there. There was the guy, what was his name? Sunny Days. I don't know what happened to that guy. I don't know why AEW got rid of him.
He's now Luther.
Oh, okay. And
that's him.
Yeah, that's him, Luther.
Yeah, I didn't know that. And then you also had Dustin Thomas, the guy that the one doesn't have legs, and MJF was in the ring, and so again, it was very entertaining, but I just thought it was weird how it was structured. I think they could have done way better than that. I think it would just been like a regular battle royal would have been maybe made more sense for me, other than this weird set of rules they did, because what it was supposed to be is that everyone, you know, picked a card, and whatever suit of cards you had, that's all the people for that suit would come out there into the ring, and that's who would be out there. But again, I just thought it was strange of the rules and everything they did for this match. So.
Yeah, it was a pretty chaotic match for the first ever official AEW match. I think that was their first ever match on pay-per-view, right?
Yeah.
I remember that. It was just like a cast of characters for sure, out of the 21 that were in the match. Very chaotic. Which one's yours, Joe?
Mine, I will start off with a weird one. It was an FMW in the 1990s, and it was a anal explosion death match.
I didn't
think about that. Just think about that. The stipulation was that the wrestler formerly known as Hayabusa, where he unmasked himself and called himself H, wrestled against fake Hayabusa, Mr. Ganosuke. Now, for those of you who are FMW fans, this is one of the biggest rivalries in the later part of the history of the promotion, Ganosuke against Hayabusa, who are formerly best friends. And in this match, whoever lost got handcuffed to the pole and got a firecracker shoved up your ass, and they lit the firecracker alive on TV.
That's great.
And it was weird. It is not as epic as it sounds, and it is terrible, and yet it is still as terrible as you might think it is, because it is not a good idea. But yes, that was a match, people, an anal explosion match.
That is definitely, that takes the cake for the weirdness. How do you, as a wrestler, how do you pick a firework that, like, okay, you know, I'm going to lose, I want, you know, this is the black cat I want in my ass. Like, do they choose it? Do they have a say in that, or are you just like, sorry, we're gonna take this and just shove it in there? Yeah, I wonder how that conversation went down. It makes you think.
Yeah, it just happened. It just happened.
Oh man. So I'm gonna divert a little bit. In Mexico, we have what are called palomas. Palomas are made with gunpowder. Yeah. So that's a real explosion you set off. And then I remember as a kid, you're supposed to lay those suckers on the ground, light it, and run, and just book it. As a kid, we just light them up and throw them. Like, God, we're so stupid. Like that. Those are things. Like, you think a firecracker can blow your arm off? This can blow your arm off. We definitely can do it. Luckily, nobody ever got hurt. But no, don't play with firecrackers, kids. Unless you're in an anal explosion match. Oh man. So I'm next, right? It's my turn.
Yes,
yeah.
Okay, so my second match, and you guys might be familiar with this one, is Kota Ibushi versus Yoshihiko in 2015 for the Ironman Heavy Metalweight Championship in DDT. If you guys aren't familiar with the Ironman Heavy Metalweight Championship in DDT, this is basically their version of the 24/7 title, but like 10 times more ridiculous. And Yoshihiko is a blow-up sex doll that has won the belt probably like 10, 15 times. It's just a match you got to see. Kota Ibushi does an amazing job selling with this thing. It's just a great match. I think if you're a wrestling fan that likes these quirky kind of things, I'm sure you guys have seen this match at some point in your lives.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's pretty fun. I like.
I think that's when they do the Infinity Destroyer. It's like a Canadian destroyer, but he does it like 10 times on himself.
Yeah.
It's just a weird match because it's basically just Kota Ibushi wrestling himself, but he makes it seem like Yoshihiko's really like tossing him around and all these spots they do. It's fun, such a fun match.
And Ibushi, now that we're talking about fireworks, Ibushi does some weird videos too, or matches in DDT. I seen the one where Ibushi like puts a bunch of fireworks on himself. Have you seen that video?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
What happened? He did a lot of crazy stuff in DDT. Like, and what I've learned is that Kota Ibushi can do a moonsault off of anything. Like, he did it off like soda machines or a fire hydrant. Like, I was like, how does he do that every time? This is a great moonsault. But what's your match?
It's me next.
Yes, sir.
All right, so this one is another battle royal. This one took place in October 14th of 2007. This is for TNA Bound for Glory, and this is a reverse battle royal. This reverse battle royal was a little weird. I mean, there was a lot of wrestlers that would start off in the outside, and they actually had to go into the ring. And then once they had 10 or 8 people in the ring, that's when whoever made it first, or those 8 or 10, those will stay. And I just thought it was a weird one. And they had people like who was in this one? I think it was Lance Hoyt, Shark Boy, Kazarian, Bobby Roode, Rikishi was in this. So yeah, I just thought it was a weird one. And I think this one was by we were talking about Vince Russo earlier. Vince Russo created this one.
Reverse battle. Yeah, I always thought the concept of a reverse battle royal was so stupid. We get in the ring. Yeah, that's definitely one of the weird matches. TNA has their fair share of Vince Russo or just stupid matches.
Yeah.
All right, Joe. What's yours?
All right, my next one stems from the early days of not really so much early days, but pre-NWO era WCW, where it was uncensored 1995, where it featured the Natural Dustin Rhodes against the Blacktop Bully in a King of the Road match, where basically both of these guys were put inside of a big semi-truck that was traveling super fast down the highway. And they were in a truck that had nothing but barrels of hay and farm tools, and they pretty much for 15 to 20 minutes fought. Just had a fight in the back of a truck. That's it. In the bed of a semi truck. And it was the most awkward thing ever. And the funny thing is about this match is that the whole rule is that you have to knock your opponent down, reach the top of the truck to pretty much sound off the horn, and you win the match. And another real interesting tidbit about this match is that because both of these guys bladed, they cut themselves, and they cut themselves the hard way, they were both fired from WCW, because at the time WCW had a rule against no blood whatsoever. Shortly thereafter, the Natural Dustin Rhodes appears in WWE and becomes Goldust, which is, in the long term, the best thing that happened to his career. But yeah, this match was just not good. It wasn't good at all. It was just a very awkward brawling match where they pretty much throw bales of hay at each other and throw each other around and kind of just push each other's faces against the side of the cage in the back of the bed of a truck. It was stupid. It was a very stupid match, and it was just an awkward way to watch a match as these guys are fighting in the bed of a semi truck, that's traveling 80 miles an hour down the highway, and they think, oh, the faster it goes, it's going to get more exciting. It's like, no, that's not how this works. It's still a stupid match in the back of the truck. And it's a terrible match. Go and watch it. It is horrible.
Yeah, I remember that one. I've seen videos of it. The whole story was that they got fired because of the lighting. It sucks. It's like you basically bust your ass. You get yourself. I'm sure they actually they didn't do it justice. Like the camera work did not do it justice for the actual ass kicking these guys did to each other in the back of a truck. Because the concept was so stupid, it took away from a probably decent brawl, but it's a good choice.
Whose turn is it?
Okay, so my third match
Tres.
is
No, I was just saying número tres.
Number 3 is another stupid WCW match, the Chamber of Horrors match from Halloween Havoc 1991. This match was just a clusterfuck of wrestling. It was so here's the match. It was the Steiner Brothers, Sting, and El Gigante or El Gigante, which is already a shit of a wrestler, versus Abdullah the Butcher, Diamond Stud, Vader, and Cactus Jack. So you got like these hardcore guys versus the faces and El Gigante for some reason. I think 2 or 3 guys were replaced in this match, so it was just thrown together. And basically, it was this giant cage that had a smaller cage in the middle with an electric chair. And during the match, I think the cage reels itself down. I don't know if they had to press something, or I don't know how they activated the mechanism to bring the chair down. And the objective was to put one member of the opposite team in there and then climb the cage to flip the switch and electrify the guy. Of course, it was all like a work, right? And the funniest part during the match was the switch was broken. So the switch was on the whole time. So if you look at the switch during the match, the guy should be getting electrocuted, but it was broken. So it was a complete shit show. So when Cactus is up there and he's trying to switch it on, he's actually switching it off, and then he notices it, and you see him fumble with it, and he switch it back on. And I was like, oh my god, this is just a clusterfuck of a match. It's legendary in WCW for being. I think they only did it once. Yeah. I was as a kid, I was like a mark for like these type of gimmicky things, like Halloween match. I think on paper it was a decent idea, but no, the whole thing was just a clusterfuck. It's an interesting match to see, and yeah, it's another case of people just getting cut up, getting beat up pretty hard, and pretty much all just for this really stupid match.
Yeah. Did you notice in this match though, is that okay? That how the switch kept falling down, and that's supposed to be the trigger to electrocute somebody. But when they were lowering the cage, like these sparklers and pyro went off of the top of the cage, and then like something got caught on fire at the top of the cage, and Great Muta had to actually mist the little fire that started at the top of the cage, and he put out the fire with his own mist.
I did not see that. No.
Yeah. Oh, you got to pay attention to the side of the screen. But you notice that like the pyro caught something on fire on the side of the cage, and Muta noticed it, so he kind of got up and just misted it, preemptively, and he put out the fire because he misted whatever caught on fire.
That's badass. That should be a rule in wrestling. Like, you know how fire extinguishers are? I think every wrestler should have a pack of mist in case there's any fires. That's just Great Muta. That shit. I did not. I'll have to rewatch it. Oh man, that's fucking cool. All right, Jerry, what's your number 3?
My third match that I'm going to choose is the Steel Asylum match for another TNA match. This happened in January of 2010. And this one, it kind of reminds you of the WWE Hell in a Cell with the red cage that nobody liked, that everybody thought it was awful, that nobody could see anything. And I think they even made it towards the end with Bray Wyatt and Rollins, right? I think it was. They even had some, the screen was actually red, and made it even more worse than it was. But this Steel Asylum match, it also had a red cage, but it was kind of like it funneled up, and on the top there was just a little hole, and the wrestlers had to climb up and get out of it that way. And in that match, there was Homicide, Xavier Woods back when he was in TNA. He had with Jay Lethal. They had a tag team called Lethal Consequences. I don't know if you guys remember that. And then Suicide was in this match, and Amazing Red, and I think the Motor City Machine Guns were in also. But I just thought it was a weird match because, again, it was really, really red, and you really couldn't see inside what was going on too much. I mean, for people that watched it on TV, I mean, you could see it better. But it was really weird how they had to climb up and then get out of that hole in the top. And I think during this match, Homicide even had problems, and he couldn't even get out of it. So the announcers really didn't know what to say. And because I think he was scared of just to get out into that hole, because then he was just gonna maybe, break his neck or something. He fell down. So I thought it was just a weird match.
Yeah, I remember that match. I think I don't know if it was in an episode of Impact or the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I think it was
where Homicide. Yeah, he took it was the most awkward thing because he was supposed to win the match, and I think he ended up winning it, but he was up there for 5 minutes because he I don't know, it was fear or he just didn't know how to get out.
Yeah.
Because it's a dome, right? So it's surrounding the cage and a little hole in the middle of the dome, escape. Like a plate turned upside down with a hole in the middle. And it's I don't blame him. I probably wouldn't know how to get the hell out of there either. I think that was the only time they must have done it once or twice. But yeah, it was supposed to be the next Ultimate X match for him, because Ultimate X is actually a really cool concept, even though it's really dangerous.
Yeah.
And Terrordome was supposed to, I don't know, I call it the Terrordome because it reminds me of the Mad Max thing. But yeah, I remember that was such an awkward match because you have to see it. You have to see the ending to really understand what we're talking about. Because Homicide is just I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get out.
Where do I put my leg now? How do I pull myself up? Maybe.
Yeah, because you messed that climb up. That was at least a good 10-foot drop or something. You land wrong. So, geez. I like that.
Who's next, JP?
Okay, well, number three.
My number three choice, I have to go to a bathhouse death match in IWA Japan, where it's Tarzan Goto and Mr. Ganusuke of FMW against Puerto Rican wrestling legends, the Headhunters. You guys remember those guys?
No.
Yeah.
I remember those guys.
Yeah, they were very big in AAA in the mid '90s for a while anyway.
Yeah,
and but they were these huge 400-pound twin brothers who were from Puerto Rico that would do moonsaults and crazy stuff. And this entire match just sucks. It just flat out sucks because it's they basically spend the entire time brawling and slipping and throwing each other into different bathtubs in a Japanese bathhouse. That's all it is for about 15 minutes. And basically the Headhunters get constantly thrown into these baths and they can't get out because they're so big. And it's just, this camera is barely, the camera work is sloppy because they can barely stand up because it's so wet in this bathhouse. And it's just terrible. Who said that this is a good idea other than a bad joke? But they were trying to make it serious. These guys were going to kick each other's ass in this Japanese bathhouse, and it was just shot horribly. And granted, you have girls in the bathhouse that are screaming, that are naked, running away in the background because they see these big men, just falling through these doors and be like, oh my God, there's men in the bathroom. And it is so fucking horrible. I recommend it. Bathhouse Deathmatch, Tarzan Goto and Mr. Ganusuke versus the Headhunters. It is just absolutely horrible. And they even had underwater camera shots of them getting drowned. That's the other awkward part about it.
At a bathhouse. That's good.
The whole thing was just awkward altogether. It was just so weird and stupid. And the thing is, I remember I purchased a VHS tape back in the tape trading days, where it was highspots.com, best Japanese deathmatch compilation volume whatever. So there were some good matches. I saw a Piranha death match, and then of course I saw a barbed wire street fight, with Cactus Jack and Terry Funk and a bunch of other Japanese guys, or a street fight between Mike Austin and Hayabusa. And then that match was on there, and I just remember thinking, this is horrible. And I didn't know anything about wrestling then. But man, this is just terrible. Go watch it. You will laugh your ass off at how terrible this match is.
But who's next? Who's number 4? You, Blue, right?
That is me. This is my number 4. So my 4th match, and this is just, I don't know if it was for any promotion in particular, but this was just a random, I think it's pretty YouTube famous, Kenny Omega versus, I was looking this guy's name up because I don't know who he is. He's another Canadian wrestler from, his name is Mike Angel, or Angels. And basically it's like a match at like a campground somewhere. Kenny Omega basically just walks up to Mike Angel playing video games. He's like, I heard you're the champion of anywhere. He basically challenges him for the title. And Kevin's like, okay. And he's just wearing a trench coat, and he just takes off his trench coat and his ring gear on, which is already hilarious. And basically they just fight throughout this entire camping ground. There's spots with a stove. There's a spot where they're like fighting at a pier, basically. I guess there's a lake there in the campground, and Kenny Omega like Hadouken Kevin into the water, and then he does like a splash on him. It's a really crazy, just wild match. They're doing a bunch of spots outside. It's more on the weird side. The rules are just the same as a Falls Count Anywhere match, but it's just, I think it's one of those matches that just made Kenny Omega famous before his time. Like I said, I don't remember if it was just like a match he had in Canada somewhere for some random promotion, or it was DDT.
In fact, I know a match you're talking about. That match is the very match that got him recognized by DDT to wrestle for DDT.
Oh, really?
Because Kenny Omega actually went out and tried to get booked in Japan, and DDT's like, all right, do us a favor. The owner of DDT is like, do me a favor, record a match and have a match outside and let's see what you can come up with. And he did that whole thing. And because he liked it so much, that's when he signed and started booking Kenny Omega for DDT. That match got him booked.
Mm. Yeah, no, well, it's very DDT-ish. There's this other match I've seen for DDT where they basically wrestle on the subway. So it's like, you could have easily convinced me this was from DDT, but yeah, that makes sense now. A lot of it, it's a very random, crazy match. I don't know where Kevin Angel is now. I don't know if he's been wrestling in Canada. But it was a fun match, very random match, very fun match to see. The final spot, it's just a big pile of dirt, like a hill of dirt, and Kenny goes up there and just like power slams poor Kevin on his back, and Kevin just rolls down the hill, and it's just like, oh crap! It was a fun, crazy outside match. I feel like there needs to be more brawls on the outside. I just love it. Like if you're in New York and they just brawl on the streets of New York, it makes it feel like, I don't know, it extends the universe a little bit outside, even though it's weird. Like I said, it's no bathhouse match, but it's a campfire or campground match, I guess. Doesn't really have a name to it. All right, Jay.
All right,
Jake.
My 4th one, this is another Vince Russo match. This is the Kenoh from Hell match, Unforgiven 1999 in the E. And this one, I think stemmed from Big Boss Man feeding his own dog to Al Snow, Al Snow's dog. And what this one was a blue cage. There was a blue cage in the ring, and it was like a smaller cage. And then they had to get to another cage on the outside of that cage, but in between the two cages there was like dogs around the ring, and they were supposed to be kind of like sharks. Like you can't get in. I mean, it would be hard to get to the other cage because these are going to bite you. Because I think there was Rottweilers, and I just thought it was a weird one because I think this was a lot of chaos going around. Didn't really go well for WWE because the dogs really didn't even care about the wrestlers. I think they were just humping each other and pissing around the ring and not really caring what was going on. I think the dog handlers kind of had to grab them so it could make sense. But this match was just weird. I think Al Snow has gone and said on a few interviews that this match was horrible, that I don't know what anybody was thinking, and that Vince McMahon just makes fun of it so much. But I just thought it was a really weird match.
Yeah, but Yeah, because working with animals in wrestling, it just seems like a very bad idea.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen one match where the animal's supposed to do it, especially if they're supposed to be rabid dogs. Like, I mean, had those dogs really been like pissed off dogs, that would have been a very dangerous match. But it's just like a cage match with a stupid gimmick, basically.
Yeah, it didn't work well for anybody. It's just a weird one.
Yeah, it's one of those very famously stupid matches.
Yep, it was a dumb, weird one.
JP number cuatro.
Numero cuatro.
Alrighty, my next match also comes from DDT. One of the funniest matches, and it wasn't so much about how weird it was. It was just a collection of characters that was like, wow, like how did they get all these people together in one match, especially this comedic? It was the first time DDT had a wrestling show at the Tokyo Dome. However, it was an empty arena and the baseball field was still laid out, and it featured pretty much just a free-for-all of wrestlers just kicking each other's ass, and it featured, of course, the president of DDT, and Minoru Suzuki, and Meiko Satomura from Sendai Girls, and also from the Mae Young Classic, and of course Lady Beard and Strong Woman Reika, and all these different characters of famous Japanese wrestlers in this one match, brawling inside of the Tokyo Dome while the baseball diamond is out, and I have no idea why. The whole match just made no sense. I don't even remember if somebody got pinned or tapped out. It was just pretty much everyone brawling. Oh yeah, and then it also featured Jun Kasai as a janitor trying to clean up the mess after everybody.
I'm not gonna lie, that was my number one too.
That was your number one, dude. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's like, I mean, we were bound to. This was one of my favorite matches in DDT too. It's with Suzuki there. Yeah, and they had I think it started with I think it was Aja Khan was singing the Japanese national anthem. It was so stupid. It was so stupid and random. There's a spot with Jun Kasai being disguised as a janitor, putting somebody through a table. They also had these two, I guess they're famous imitators. It's called Shinsuke Nakamura and Hiroshi Tanimoto. I guess they were like they're parodies of Shinsuke and Hiroshi, and they just got their ass kicked there too. That was a very fun match to watch. I like it. So that was my number one. Huh?
Oh, geez, I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. I mean, we just kind of do this on the go, so it's like, dang. It's like, and I was saving it for number one because it's such a wild and crazy match with all these characters. It's so funny because it's like, oh yeah, DDT finally made it to the Tokyo Dome. It's crazy, it's a baseball field. It's just so funny.
The thing I do love about DDT is that DDT does have quality, good wrestling, yes, but they're also never afraid to laugh at themselves and laugh at themselves in a big way, because they know, like, listen, we're never going to be able to host a Tokyo Dome show, and that's totally okay. And because, I mean, at the end of the day, they do have a big show every year, Peter Pan, where it's at I forgot which sumo hall, but it's a pretty big, it's like 20,000 people, and they do sell it out. But are they Tokyo Dome level? Maybe not entirely. I don't know, but it is still pretty hilarious that they poke fun at the fact that they could say, yes, we have had a show in the Tokyo Dome. It just wasn't like everyone else's.
Oh man! So I have a bonus. I can make up for it. For my number one, I guess it would be. Do you guys remember Wrestling Society X on MTV?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's one of those famously, it was only 10 episodes, but the WFX Rumble on the first episode was just a wild, just like crazy trip. They had a spot with, I think New Jack was in the company too. He like jumped off like this, what are those cargo things they have in ships? I can't think of it. I can't think of the name for it. It's one of those giant containers that you see in ships all the time. Jumped off one of those onto a table. There was a spot with like an electrified fence, and apparently like a piranha tank. Just watch any episode of WSX. They have stupidest matches there. It was supposed to be like a successor to ECW, but it was not really a thing. It was only 10 episodes, got canceled by MTV really early into its career, but it had a lot of these hardcore guys, some of these really high flyers. But I recommend that WSX Rumble. It's just like a trip. It almost makes you numb to the experience of hardcore wrestling, because there was like an exploding cage in the same match, and the guy gets put through a table, and you're like, I can't even react to that second one because somebody just got like exploded in a cage or whatever. That's my filler. Since we had the same number one, I was like, well, let me talk about this. I think it's been kind of forgotten in the wrestling world. It was supposed Wrestling Society, because it's such a short-lived wrestling organization, and you can even call it that. That was my number one now.
Cool. So let me do my number one. My number one is, I think JP mentioned this match earlier. My number one is the Final Deletion, and it was wonderful. And it was back in 2016, the Final Deletion, the Hardy versus Hardy match. And I think that one was the one that kind of it was very innovative during that time. I think everyone was so excited with it because it was just weird. I was at the Hardy compound. And that's when Matt Hardy, of course, brought up the characters of Vanguard 1 and Senor Benjamin and that whole weird stuff that was going on there. And it was just it was just at the Hardy compound. They had a ring, of course, set up by Senor Benjamin. It was fireworks, and I think Jeff Hardy even climbed up on a tree, and then jumped into the ring where he had set up Matt Hardy on top of a ladder. And it was just a bunch of stuff going on. It was a really fun match. And that's the first thing I think about. That's the first thing I think about when you have matches like the Firefly Hunt Funhouse and like the Undertaker and AJ Styles match that just with WrestleMania that we just had. And that's the first thing I think about is this one. Not really Lucha Underground, but more the Matt Hardy stuff that he was doing with all the whole deletion gimmick he had.
Oh yeah, that match takes the cake. Where I think that was the first like mainstream kind of North American match that was just so like cinematic and silly as it was, because we lost the match and it's an amputated boat. And the boat became a thing too, and the Vanguard won. He had all these like little assistants or just inanimate objects or Senor Benjamin.
Yeah.
It was so funny, and then you could rewatch that match a million times. The funny part of it. Yeah, it's a good match. Didn't they do one with the Rock and Roll Express and the Young Bucks, and they were fighting with fireworks?
Did they?
Yeah, wrong. Yeah, that's no, they right? I don't know if Matt was involved in any way or if it just was at the compound, but it was that was another one I remember too. I don't know if it was in TNA or Ring of Honor. It was one or the other. Yeah, those compound matches are always fun. One of my favorite areas was like the Lake of Resurrection, where like I think he throws Jeff into it, and Jeff goes through all his previous gimmicks, and he's like, "No, I can do this." And he keeps like throwing him in, and then he comes back as Willow, which was a very bad like mask gimmick that Jeff Hardy had in TNA.
Yeah.
I remember that. That was one of my favorite spots because he keeps throwing him in, and he comes back as like heel Jeff Hardy, like smoking a cigarette. He's like, "No, I don't need you. I need Brother Nero." And I'm like, "Oh man, such a like funny, stupid thing." JP,
what's your number one?
Okay. My number one may or may not be one of y'all's, but my number one for sure has to be Kenny Omega versus that little girl.
Yeah.
Because the fact that somebody got away with having a match with a small girl, and it actually looked like a decent match. I mean, granted, it's not believable. It's a little kid, throwing around a guy who's 3 times heavier than she is at this point, but it was just hilarious to me. And it wasn't so much awkward in a bad way. It was just like, wow, I can't believe that somebody is letting this happen? And they did it safely. And it just blew my mind. I was like, wow. And it was actually entertaining to see, Kenny sell for a little girl.
It definitely did it way better than when Braun Strowman brought a kid in the ring.
Nicholas.
Yeah. Yeah, it was better.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, I think that was just a fun. I think it was it Stardom or maybe it was another promotion that did that. I don't know. I wonder if that girl became a wrestler in real life.
I think she did
for a while.
She became a Joshi wrestler.
A Joshi, yeah. Yeah, Kenny's always had a lot of fun with Joshi wrestling. I've seen spots in the match. I've never honestly seen the full match, but I think they do the little airplane spin, and she does all these like swinging DDTs and stuff on Kenny. And it's just like the Yoshihiko match where it's like he basically like does all these flips and stuff to just make it look really legit. That's really funny. Yeah, that's one that for sure goes down in history. Kenny's career.
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
So that was our list, guys. Let us know what you guys think of our list, or what other ones you guys have in mind that you want to add on. But you guys got anything else before we end the show?
Other than the fact that I am excited to see that the Revival are now released, and when things kind of go back to normal hopefully sometime in the near future, it'd be awesome to see what the Revival is going to do in whether it's AEW or Japan or wherever they decide to go. It'll be awesome to see the possibility that they have, because we all know that they are very amazing tag team wrestlers.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, for sure. That was huge news this week that we got for sure. Where they go, I think like we were saying earlier, it'd be fun if they do something in Japan once all this kind of settles down. I feel like they would be kind of like maybe they'd be treated like a Stan Lane over there, where they just have these rough, tough motherfuckers. I don't know, it'd be interesting. I'd like to see what Japan does with them. I'd definitely be open to that. And AEW too, them and the Young Bucks have always had this kind of Twitter feud. Mm-hmm. But we'll see where it goes. Definitely.
Yeah, and to end on a good note, I also saw that Penelope Ford got engaged with Kip Sabian, right?
Oh wow, they got engaged?
Yeah.
Yes, they did. Okay. Was she ever Joey Janela's girlfriend, or was she just like her? That was her.
Oh no,
thing.
Her and Joey Janela were together for many years, up until maybe early last year.
I thought it was just like I was like, oh, that's a little bit awkward, but I guess that's you're working with each other. I'm sure they understand. They're all adults, but oh, interesting. Yeah, because I remember she was for the first All In. She was like his manager, right, for Joey Janela, and then
they were very much together for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's awesome for them, though.
Yeah, unless it's a work, then I don't know. But I mean, they put it all over social media. They got engaged, and it seemed legit. I don't know. See what happens with that.
Yeah, I mean, nice.
Yeah,
cool. Very cool.
Yeah, but let me shoot the social media at you guys. Tiger Driver Radio, we're on Facebook. You could find us on Tiger Driver Radio. Instagram, we're also under Tiger Driver Radio. Twitter, you can find us under Tiger Driver Rad1. That's RAD1, the number 1. Or you can email us at tigerdriverradio@gmail.com. You guys got any final thoughts? Blue? JP?
I'm good.
Wash your hands, wash your ass, stay home.
Stay home, guys. Be safe, be healthy. Enjoy pro wrestling.